Hey there, everyone. Art Burns here. I'm hoping you're doing well today. I hope you're staying balanced in your emotions, in your body, in your circumstances. I hope that you're staying healthy. I hope that you're giving yourself some space and some time and some compassion, and that you're making your way through these very very strange times that seem to be getting more challenging by the day. Right now, the emotions that are running through our collective mind, and as well as, of course, individually, the emotions these days are just, I mean, they're just off the charts. There's no other way to describe it. I mean, there's so many different emotions that we're exposed to. You turn on the news or go on social media, you're seeing emotions from others that are fear, that are shame, that are guilt, that are anger, and you're feeling, your own emotions are being triggered by all this. Whether you feel those same emotions or those emotions are creating different emotions for you, and it's a really really volatile time in terms of our emotions. And so, you know, emotions have a huge role in the stress that we feel. I mean, emotions in general have a way of affecting your body in a very, very strong way, right? And oftentimes they do result in the stress response. When we're feeling emotions, emotions are always sort of triggered by a thought, right? So you turn on, you open up Facebook and you see, a post that somebody has that's, either aligning with something you believe and is going to, trigger your thoughts that way of or it's something that you disagree with and it's going to trigger your thoughts that way. Well, after that thought, right, as soon as you have a thought of something like, yeah, the violence that I'm seeing is wrong, like that thought, right, it creates an emotion in you. Right now, that emotion for you might be, it might be anger, it might be, shame, that, why do I believe this is wrong, why do I believe something's right. It could be whatever it is, and then of course that emotion then creates a sensation in your body. Right now, here's where it kind of becomes a roller coaster in a way, right? That sensation in your body then causes you to think a thought that is similar to that first thought, right? That aligns with that emotion and that sensation, right? And then, of course, you have a similar emotion. You stay angry, you stay shame, you stay grief, you stay whatever the emotion is. And then another feeling in your body inspires another thought, inspires another emotion, inspires another sensation, inspires another thought, and it goes, it goes, it goes, it goes, it goes. That's what we call a mood, right? That's when people are in just the mood, right? Now, it can be either a negative or it can be a positive, right? And so you're in a good, happy mood all day, or you're in a negative, unhappy mood all day, right? And so eventually, as I mentioned the other day, eventually really there's the entire spectrum of human emotions can really be broken down into fear or love. That's the dividing line. Like every emotion could be either something that you're drawn to or something that you're pushing away from, right? You're afraid or you're in love. You're attracted to, right? Just feeling a couple of raindrops on this gorgeous sunny day. That's amazing. So the idea then is, those once you get into a place of fear, as you've heard me say a lot of times, if you've listened to any of these videos or this podcast, you know that the fear is where the stress response comes from, right? Because once you start getting into an emotion of fear and fear-based thoughts, right, and the sensations that those fears cause, those emotions, thoughts, and sensations are sending a signal to your brain, right, that is going to tell your brain that something's wrong, right? And your brain and your body only have one way to deal with that, and that's in a physical response. And that's what the stress response is, right? Your heart rate goes up, your blood pressure, all the things that I talk about a lot here. So so the more we can understand and the more that we can regulate our emotions, the more we have a chance of breaking that cycle, right? Because again, yes, it's motivated mostly by our thoughts, you could say, right? But at the same time, there is no real beginning or end, and the emotions are the thing that really drives us as human beings, right? Like our emotions are what drives us. Again, fear or love, right? We're always, always, always going to be, moving away from something we don't want or moving towards something we do want. And that's an emotional, right? That emotion towards those things that is our emotions. So our emotions are going to drive all of this action, right? So therefore, the more we can understand and regulate these emotions, right? Whatever emotions that we're experiencing, the more chance we have of breaking that cycle and moving away from that, that just automatic kind of response, right? And of course, that ultimately the things that we're moving away from, that's going to wind up with stress, and that's not what we want, right? And also we don't want to blindly kind of without intelligence move towards the things that we want either, because that is also going to create, in a way that goes back to fear, because we start to cling to those things and then we worry about losing them, right? And now we're moving away from losing the thing by moving towards the thing. It gets very confusing. And so the idea, though, the bottom line of what I'm talking about here is the need for emotional intelligence. Okay, emotional intelligence is a vastly important skill that we can have, and it is a skill, right? And just like any other skill, it is trainable. One of my clients actually calls it his superpower, emotional intelligence. I love that because that's what it is, right? So emotional intelligence is basically the ability to understand your own emotions, right? To regulate your own emotions, to allow yourself to understand how your emotions are motivating you, right? Either you're moving away from something or moving towards something, knowing when that's happening, knowing how that's happening, knowing why that's happening, and giving the energy to the stuff that's important, right? Like I said, there's nothing wrong with moving towards the things you want, as long as you're doing that with conscience and with intention, and so understanding that motivation, right? Now, emotional intelligence is also, those are the internal ways in which emotional intelligence works, right? I'll let that plane go by. But there's also an outward sense of emotional intelligence, right? And this is where it becomes truly a superpower, because you're going to use all these things: it's self-awareness, the regulation of yourself and your emotions, the motivation of your emotions, the motivational factor of your emotions, that understanding, and the skillful use of the motivation of your emotions, right? And then you can turn that outward, right? And outwardly, what that means is having empathy for others, and also, just generally social skills, knowing how to act in different situations and knowing how to get the most out of whatever situation you're in. So, emotional intelligence, again, starts with self-awareness, right? And then the next step is self-regulation. If you can master those two, right, you are, it's not a linear thing. Like if you get those two things, you are well on your way. You are 90% there, right? So the idea then is to practice, right? Like the way that you can develop self-awareness is to simply practice self-awareness. Just really just getting into yourself and just understanding what it is that's happening as it's happening, right? And the only way to do that is to pay attention to it, right? And the more you can pay attention to it, the more you will start to see it, the more you will start to understand it. And then as you understand it, right, there's an old saying that somebody I used to work with used to tell me all the time: what is measured is mastered, right? As soon as you can understand it and as soon as you can feel it, now you can regulate it, right? And again, this is a skill, right? And it's a skill that comes with practice, just like any other skill, right? Any skill that you ever developed, from eating to walking to riding a bike to catching a baseball to hitting a tennis ball, whatever it is, you had to practice, and you develop that skill through that practice, right? So you can develop these skills through practice as well. The result, okay, whether you're talking about, as a parent, as an employer or an employee, as a neighbor, as a member of society, understanding the whole, involved with self-awareness and self-regulation is understanding our biases, our implicit biases, bringing them from implicit to explicit, so we can, again, understand them first and then regulate them. right? Not allowing your biases to get in the way of some very important conversations, very difficult conversations that are happening right now. Certainly around racial issues and around, the coronavirus is still a big hot topic for a lot of people. So my point is that this emotional intelligence can help you not only reduce the stress in your life, but truly can help you to live the life that you want to live, right? It can truly facilitate that. And so I invite you to learn more about it and talk to me that way. If you would like, I can certainly tell you more deeply about what emotional intelligence is all about, how it works, and how to truly develop it. Because again, all we're talking about is just the ability to pay attention to what's happening inside of us and what's happening around us as it's happening, and do so without judging the experiences, which is the tendency of the mind, right? And that's where you get to that judgment is what makes you feel like, okay, this is something I need to be afraid of, and this is something I should love. A lot of times these are automatic reactions that are not necessarily true, right? And so as we practice paying attention to what's happening and doing so without judgment, which again is a skill that is very attainable. Okay, this is not very difficult stuff. Okay, it just requires a little bit of intention and a little bit of commitment to a little bit of time every day. You might be very, very surprised. So whether you're a parent or just somebody who wants to improve the emotional experience of your life, you want to reduce your stress, you want to have richer, engagement with people, richer in, relationships with people, please hit me up. Let's talk about emotional intelligence. Let me help you out with this. All right? Thank you for listening. I wish you well, and I'll be back again tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to talk about intention and what that means and how important that alone, just being more intentional can help you with, again, this is not linear stuff. You're 90% of the way there if you can get that one step of intention. Just like if you get those first 2 steps of the emotional intelligence, you're 90% there. It's not a linear kind of thing. So anyway, thanks for listening. I'll be back again tomorrow. Wish you well. Take care.